Have you ever had a moment so mortifying you wish the ground would swallow you whole? That's exactly what happened to me, Daniel Parker, on my third day at Meridian Publishing. One wrong door changed everything between me and Victoria Hayes, the most intimidating CEO in New York publishing. If you're enjoying this story of workplace disaster turned unexpected romance, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that prove life's biggest embarrassments can become our greatest blessings. I stood frozen in the doorway, steam billowing around me as Victoria Hayes, my notoriously cold boss who'd barely acknowledged my existence, clutched a towel to her chest, mascara streaking down her face as she sobbed uncontrollably on the edge of her private bathroom's marble bench. Our eyes met in the mirror. Time stopped. In that moment, I wasn't looking at the fearsome publishing executive who made seasoned editors tremble. I was seeing a woman breaking apart at the seams. "Get out," she hissed, but something in her voice cracked. Maybe it was the single dad in me, used to comforting my daughter through countless tears, but I couldn't just leave. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Hayes. I thought this was the supply closet," I stammered, backing away but not quite leaving. "Are you okay?" 3 days earlier, I'd been desperately grateful when Meridian Publishing offered me the position of senior copy editor. After my wife's death 2 years ago, I'd been struggling to balance freelance work with raising my 8-year-old daughter, Emma. This job meant stability, benefits, and a chance to rebuild our lives. I'd heard rumors about Victoria Hayes, the Ice Queen, the Dragon Lady, the publishing prodigy who'd climbed to CEO by age 35 through ruthless ambition. But I needed this job too badly to be intimidated. Victoria had barely glanced at me during my orientation, dismissing me with a curt nod when we were introduced. She was stunning in that untouchable way, always impeccably dressed in designer suits, her dark hair pulled into a severe bun, her voice precise and commanding. The entire office operated in fear of her cutting remarks and impossible standards. Now here she was, broken open before me, looking utterly human. "If you breathe a word of this to anyone, you're fired," she said, wiping furiously at her eyes. "This bathroom is clearly marked private. Can't you read?" I should have apologized again and fled. Instead, I pulled a clean handkerchief from my pocket, a habit from my days of Emma's skinned knees and ice cream mishaps, and held it out. "I won't tell anyone," I said quietly. "But sometimes it helps to talk to a stranger." She stared at the handkerchief like it might bite her. "Do people actually still carry these?" "Single dads of messy 8-year-olds do," I replied with a small smile. Something in her expression shifted. She took the handkerchief and dabbed at her eyes. "My father died this morning," she said, the words falling between us like stones. "Heart attack. I was on the phone with him when it happened." The raw pain in her voice hit me like a physical blow. I knew that pain intimately, the sudden, world-shattering loss that leaves you hollow. "I'm so sorry," I said, meaning it with every fiber of my being. "I lost my wife 2 years ago." There are no words. Victoria looked at me then, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time. "You should go," she said, but the edge had left her voice. I nodded and backed out, closing the door gently behind me. I expected that would be the end of it, that she'd pretend our encounter never happened and continue treating me like invisible office furniture. I was wrong. The next morning, my handkerchief appeared on my desk, laundered and pressed, with a small note, "Thank you. V." That afternoon, I was called to her office, certain I was about to be fired despite her promise. Instead, she asked me to edit her eulogy for her father. "I'm told you have a way with words," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "And you understand this." I did understand. The impossible task of distilling a life into paragraphs. The pressure to find perfect words for an imperfect relationship. I stayed late that night, working through her draft, sensing the complicated love she had for her father between the lines. When I returned it the next day, she read it silently, then looked up with eyes that were suspiciously bright. You kept all my words but somehow made them better. That's my job, I said simply. Will you come? She asked suddenly. To the funeral. I don't have. There won't be many people there. That was how I found myself sitting in a half-empty church that Saturday, Emma beside me in her best dress, watching Victoria Hayes stand strong and alone at the podium, delivering the eulogy we'd crafted together. My daughter reached for my hand when Victoria's voice wavered, and whispered, "She's sad like we were, Daddy." After the service, Victoria approached us, her professional mask firmly back in place except for the surprise that flickered across her face at seeing Emma. "This is my daughter, Emma," I explained. "Emma, this is Ms. Hayes, my boss." "You look pretty when you're not sad," Emma said with the unfiltered honesty of children. To my astonishment, Victoria knelt down to Emma's level. "Thank you for coming today. It's very brave to go to sad places when you don't have to." "Daddy says it's important to show up for people," Emma replied. "Even when it's hard." Something shifted in Victoria's expression, a softening I'd never seen before. She invited us to the small reception afterward, and I watched in amazement as my daughter somehow breached the walls that Victoria had built around herself. They talked about books. Emma's current obsession was mythology, and Victoria actually smiled when Emma declared that Artemis was better than Aphrodite because she doesn't need a boyfriend to be awesome. Over the following weeks, a strange new dynamic developed at work. Victoria was still demanding and exacting, but the arbitrary cruelty that had terrorized the office seemed to diminish. She began to acknowledge me in hallways, occasionally stopping to ask specific questions about projects. The office rumor mill went into overdrive, but the truth was both simpler and more complicated than office gossip could capture. We were two people who had glimpsed each other's wounds and recognized something familiar in the other's pain. A month after the funeral, Victoria stopped by my desk late one evening as I was rushing to finish a project before picking up Emma from her after-school program. "You don't need to stay late," she said. "I've seen your work. Quality over hours." I blinked in surprise. "Thank you, but Emma's program ends at 6, and I still need to." "I could give you a ride," she offered, then immediately looked as though she regretted the words. "I'm heading downtown anyway." That was the first of many rides. Somehow, Victoria Hayes, who terrified literary agents and made marketing directors quake, was completely disarmed by my daughter's chatter about school drama and her detailed opinions on the Percy Jackson series. One evening, after Victoria had dropped us at our modest apartment building, Emma asked innocently, "Why don't we ever invite Ms. Victoria for dinner? She always looks hungry." I laughed. "Hungry? Not for food," Emma said with the wisdom that sometimes made me wonder if my old soul of a child was raising me rather than the other way around. "For people. She looks at us like we're cake and she's on a diet." So we invited her for dinner. To my shock, she accepted. She arrived with an expensive bottle of wine and a children's book for Emma, looking almost nervous in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Your home is lovely," she said, glancing around our small but cozy apartment with its mismatched furniture and walls covered in Emma's artwork. "It's small but it works for us," I replied, suddenly self-conscious. "It feels like a home," she said quietly, and something in her tone made me wonder about the place she returned to each night. Dinner was spaghetti and meatballs, Emma's favorite, and I watched in fascination as Victoria Hayes, terror of Meridian Publishing, twirled pasta and laughed at my daughter's jokes. After Emma went to bed, we sat on the balcony with glasses of wine, the city lights spread before us. "Thank you," she said after a comfortable silence. "I can't remember the last time I had a family dinner. Even before your father." I let the question hang. Victoria swirled her wine, staring into it as if it held answers. "My father and I had a complicated relationship. He built Meridian from nothing, expected me to do the same with what he gave me. Excellence was the baseline, not something to celebrate." She looked up at me. The last time he told me he was proud of me was when I made the Forbes 30 under 30 list. I was 28. And your mother? Left when I was 12. Decided corporate life and motherhood weren't compatible. Her smile was brittle. Apparently, I take after her in ambition but not maternal instinct. I thought about how she'd knelt to Emma's level at the funeral, how she listened intently to my daughter's stories. I think you sell yourself short. She laughed, but it wasn't her usual sharp sound. The office would disagree. I know what they call me. People fear what they don't understand, I said. And you don't let people understand you. Except you, apparently, she replied, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity that made my heart skip. Why is that, Daniel? I considered my answer carefully. Because I saw you. Not the CEO, not the Ice Queen. Just Victoria, having a very human moment. Most people would have used that moment against me. I'm not most people. No, she agreed softly. You're not. That night changed something between us. At work, Victoria maintained her professional distance, but there was a new undercurrent of understanding. She began to implement changes at Meridian, flexible hours for parents, remote work options, a mentorship program for promising editors. The office atmosphere transformed gradually from fear to respect. And then came the corporate retreat. 3 days at a luxury resort upstate, mandatory for all senior staff. I nearly declined. Arranging childcare for Emma for that long seemed impossible, until Victoria casually mentioned that family members were welcome, with activities planned for children. You arranged this, I realized as we discussed the details in her office. She shrugged, but couldn't quite hide her smile. It made business sense. We lose too many talented people when they start families. The retreat revealed sides of Victoria few had seen before. She swam with the children in the resort pool, participated in team-building exercises with genuine effort, and even joined the karaoke night, surprising everyone with a stunning rendition of "At Last" that left the room speechless. On the final evening, as Emma played with other children under the watchful eye of the resort's childcare staff, Victoria and I walked along the lakeshore in the fading light. You've changed the company, I said. People actually smile in the elevator now. She laughed. Terrifying, isn't it? My father would be appalled. Happiness doesn't improve the bottom line. Doesn't it, though? Retention is up, productivity is higher, and the last 3 manuscripts we acquired are generating serious buzz. Maybe, she conceded. Or maybe I'm just getting soft. I prefer to think of it as growing. She stopped walking, turning to face me. Is that what this is? Growth? The question held more than professional implications, and we both knew it. Over the months, our relationship had evolved into something neither of us had named: dinners at my apartment, weekend outings with Emma, late-night conversations about books and life and loss. Victoria, I began, but she shook her head. I'm still your boss, Daniel. This is complicated. Life usually is, I replied. But some complications are worth navigating. She looked out over the water, the setting sun painting her profile in gold. I've spent my entire career avoiding personal entanglements. They're messy, unpredictable. Like accidentally walking in on your boss in the bathroom? That startled a laugh out of her. Exactly like that. She turned back to me, vulnerability and determination warring in her expression. I'm not good at this. Relationships, family. I never had the best examples. Neither did I admitted. But every day with Emma, I'm learning. That's all any of us can do. Victoria took a deep breath. There's something I need to tell you. I've been offered a position at Penguin Random House. CEO of their fiction division. My heart sank. That's incredible. Congratulations. I turned it down. I stared at her. What? Why? Because for the first time in my life, I have something at Meridian worth staying for. Her eyes met mine, steady and certain. Someone, actually. Two someones. The implications of her words washed over me like the gentle waves lapping at the shore beside us. Victoria. I'm restructuring Meridian, she continued. Creating a new position, editorial director, reporting directly to the board, not to me. Equal footing. She smiled nervously. If you're interested. Are you offering me a promotion or permission? I asked, stepping closer. Both, she whispered. If you want them. I reached for her hand, entwining our fingers. Emma was right about you. What did she say? That you looked hungry for people. For connection. Victoria's laugh was soft and real. Your daughter is dangerously perceptive. She gets that from her mother, I said. But her capacity for love? I'd like to think we share that. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I leaned forward and kissed Victoria Hayes, not the Ice Queen, not my boss, but the woman who had shown me that second chances come in unexpected packages, and that the heart has an infinite capacity to rebuild itself, stronger than before. 6 months later, Emma stood between us at the small ceremony in Central Park, holding both our hands as Victoria and I exchanged vows. The Meridian staff, now a genuine work family rather than terrorized employees, cheered as we kissed. See? Emma whispered as we walked back down the aisle. I told you she just needed us. And she was right. Victoria needed us, just as we needed her. 3 broken people who found in each other the missing pieces to build something beautiful and whole. Sometimes the wrong door leads exactly where you're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more tales of unexpected love and second chances. Remember that our greatest mistakes sometimes lead to our greatest blessings, and that everyone, even the most intimidating boss, has a story behind their walls. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.